think about, the voters that we had at the town hall last night, some of them, one was a widow and she's worried about paying her taxes and her bills and what that's going to look like. And so you hear that resonating and breaking through as she's still undecided. And so I just wonder, given your position in 2016, at this point in that race, when you're looking at where we are 12 days out, polling averages in 2016 at this time had you on pace for a bigger win than President Obama had 4 years before. And of course, you know better than anyone how those next 12 days went. What do you think Vice President Harris needs to do, in your view, to avoid a repeat?
Well, first of all, I don't think she has Jim Comey in the wings waiting to kneecap her. So that's good. And I'm very grateful for that. But I think she is doing what she needs to do. And in reporting from today, I think by CNN, a number of the voters who were at your town hall have said she convinced them, that she had shown the kind of empathy and concern about their problems, that she'd come forward with her ideas, her suggested policies. So I think she's doing what she needs to do. And from my perspective, that's not only her job, it's the job of all of us who are supporting her. It's obviously the job of the messaging, the advertising, everything that goes into the final sprint to the election, because I think that the information is out there for voters who are looking for it. You can go to her campaign webpage. You can read about what she wants to do to lower the costs of housing, how she wants to take on people who are exploiting pricing of necessary goods, whether it's groceries or anything else. She talks about how she has a plan for long-term care, one of the biggest expenses that many families face. Yeah. So the policies are there. It's hard, though, as you know, you're a reporter, you know how difficult it is to talk about things like policies. So often what comes through are, the more, challenging and kinds of criticisms that you make of your opponent. So I think she's doing both.
Well, on that, you can have a debate over her proposal on spending and inflation, and she wants to go after price gouging. We've had some Democrats say they don't really think that that's a solution for that. But you're having a policy debate at that point. And I wonder, from your view, as someone who put out a lot of policy in 2016 and talked a lot about policy, do you think that she faces a double standard in the sense of people watched the town hall last night, voters say, well, actually, I do want specifics on the economy or on immigration. Maybe she should have said they should have done something else differently sooner. But, Donald Trump's not there because he didn't agree to do a town hall. Do you see it as a double standard in this race?
I really do, Caitlin. And I see it as a double standard. Thankfully, we've made progress when it comes to women's in politics and certainly seeking the highest office in the land. And I'm very happy that we can say that. But there still is a double standard. And I think there's also a double standard because it still is very difficult to cover Donald Trump. He is incoherent half the time. Then he'll come out with something that is about how dangerous migrants are, and that cuts through. And then he goes back to talking about Hannibal Lecter or whatever is on his mind. And it's really hard to cover that. And so I think there is almost a default in the press where people go back and say, OK, well, at least Harris is trying to answer questions and she is putting out real policy. So, let's go pile on her and make sure we know exactly what she's talking about, because there is no comparison. She has specific policies. Now, he tries to, avoid owning Project 2025, which is very specific and very scary. And I think it's rare that the press really goes after him on that and says, OK, look at what they want to do. Get rid of the weather service, for heaven's sakes. How are we going to know what we're doing every day? I mean, it's so bizarre. And yet he's hardly ever held to account for it. And so I do think there's a double standard. I think she understands that. She's been underestimated her entire political career. She gets up every day. She puts on those high heels. She goes out there. She makes her case. And I think that there's so much more energy in her campaign than on the other side. There is so much more enthusiasm. We see it not just in the rallies, but they've got a great ground game. I'm getting incredible reporting from the battleground states about how effective that is. So she knows there's a double standard. We all know if you're paying attention, and she's just going to keep, powering through it.
It's very rare that you'll see me apologize for the content of a video, but you'll see it now. I am very and sincerely sorry that you had to sit through several minutes of Hillary. Every time I see her, I get a little bit more annoyed, a little bit more agitated, a little bit more disgusted. I couldn't bear to play the whole video. 11 minutes was just too much to bear. I will say that as someone that watched it, I paid attention to some of the things she was saying, and I'll throw it in here for the sake of not wasting your time with any more clips of her. She stated that back when she ran against Trump, we didn't really know how to deal with someone like him, and we have to keep telling people about what kind of a man this is. Okay, it should be plain as day that if Trump can get over 90 criminal charges, if Trump can get impeached twice, if Trump can have investigations up the wazoo and still have millions and millions of people that either vote for him in a primary or vote for him in a general election, the electorate has a pretty good idea of who this man is. For better or for worse, they know who he is. Now, Democrats, if they were actually seeking to do something different from a lot of their past strategies, would speak to the issues that are bothering people. She made a comment about, Harris, she's putting out her proposals, but, Caitlin, you know how hard it is to talk about policy. And it's like, yeah, you're kind of missing the point. See, if we go back to 2016, and, during that clip I played, you see Hillary mention Comey and blame him because, of course, she does. It's sad that in almost a decade of just no longer holding office, no longer running for office, she has still failed to muster up the courage to admit that she and she alone is the reason that she lost to a game show host. But, that's just the nature of these politicians. Their egos will never get them to acknowledge any wrongdoing. So one of the things that she stated is that Harris, right, is putting out these different policy ideas. Oh, this policy, that policy. Now, you can put out policies and still not be attractive to voters. Think about the issues that are really affecting people, right? They're upset about inflation, right? The cost of things is way up. They're bothered by immigration to, one extent or another. And of course, we can also talk about the coalition of people that are upset about Gaza. And Harris really does not talk about, she makes abstract comments about the economy, but she's not going to these swing states with these voters, addressing their specific concerns and actually making an attempt at making some inroads with these people before they cast their ballots, or in some cases already have. So if she loses this election, which is going to take place in less than 2 weeks, it will be her fault and hers alone. The only people it could extend to with any plausible deniability of it just being, all Harris's fault, are people in her campaign, like her campaign manager, her different surrogates, because they are part of the actual direct group of people who are supposed to make her appealing to the electorate. You can't keep blaming the electorate for why you lost an election. And what is so ironic about this clip is you think about all the people that they could bring on. You want to talk about economic issues, you could bring Bernie on. You want to talk about foreign policy, you can. Just any person you could bring on, voters, right? Like those little panels with different voters there. All the people you could have participating in a CNN interview less than 2 weeks before the election. You're going to bring up you're going to bring in on strategies to defeat Trump, the washed up first and only person so far in a non-primary to get defeated by him. That's who you choose to have your way too long interview with. And after all these years, she still doesn't get it. In 2016, voters were sick of things. They were sick of, again, the income inequality. Many of them were tired of immigration to one extent or another. And when you had a system that was very disenfranchising, where people didn't feel as if they were getting treated fairly, and you have this politician who's running, person who does not appear to be a politician, never ran for office before, can at least pretend that he's successful even if he's gone bankrupt 4 times, he appeared attractive to them. They knew that if they voted for him, many of those same coastal elite bastards, that went to all those amazing Ivy League schools, were going to disapprove of it because it was, at least on a surface level, a drastic change from anything they'd seen before. He wasn't a career politician. Now, of course, we can talk about the objective problems of Trump's tenure, or at least the things that bothered us personally, but that's the point I'm making, that at least when you look at things from the perspective of the disillusioned voter in Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, wherever, then suddenly you start to understand, okay, this is why Clinton, with all her experience, wasn't able to overcome Trump. Not, oh, I'm a woman, and everyone just decided to now dislike women, even though Hillary had more votes than Trump. But, the American electorate is so against having a woman as president, yeah. And it's the same thing with Harris, where we don't know who's going to win this. I'd like to believe it's Harris. It could be Trump. I'm not making any definitive predictions as of this moment. But make no mistake about it. If Harris loses, we're going to see the same stupid song played out. She didn't win because of her gender. She didn't win because, it never stops. These people are never held accountable for being defeated in very winnable elections. They're just not made to be accountable. And one other thing to add in here. Why does Hillary keep writing all these damn books? Like, I've never seen, and I brought this up with somebody else a while back. I've never seen a politician write 4 memoirs. She had Living History back in 2003, that Hard Choices book. What happened, her book where she blamed every single person that ever lived except her for why she lost against Trump. And now this one's like, why? It's unnecessary. Like, even the former President Clinton has only written 2 books. He had his, My Life, which came out in, I think it was like 2004, and the new one, I think it's Citizen something, that's going to come out around the latter part of this year. But she just keeps popping these things out, and they're not good. No one talks about how innovative and insightful they were. It's just more blaming this person, bashing this person. I saw an excerpt where she was talking trash about Melania at a Rosalind Carter's funeral. Just tabloid trash. But also, just to throw this in there too, some people have said, and you see this with Cheney, with both of them, oh, Trump is a danger to democracy, he's going to rip up the Constitution, blah, blah, blah. And there are people who are, kind of like more conservatively, and they're like, oh, if he was really going to do that, why didn't he do it before? Now, of course, I could say it's because he didn't think he would win. He would lose in 2020, and he wants to ensure that type of thing doesn't happen again. But, that's just, we're splitting hairs at that point. The bigger issue here, and this is, again, going back to that thing of like what the voters actually care about, is that if you are a disenfranchised, barely making it voter who lives paycheck to paycheck like a majority of Americans do you really think they give a damn about some democracy or some constitution or some this stuff just it doesn't matter to people. When you're afraid if you're going to live or die, when your rent costs too much or your house gets foreclosed, you don't care about any of that stuff. I hate to say it, but it's the truth. And Democrats should be the main ones mentioning, look, we can get in all the academics of safeguarding elections, but these are every 2-4 years. What about all the days in between those 2 and 4 years where people are struggling to even exist? just another example of the tone deafness of the Democratic Party. And honestly, I feel bad for women that like when people look up icon like when they just type in American women in U.S. politics or um, iconic women in American history, Hillary is going to be one of the first ones that comes up, and it's really sad that one of their most notable representatives is this stand for nothing, massive ego, lacking accountability, craving power, just demon. The only thing Hillary has succeeded in doing in her 30 plus years of being in the public spotlight, even in her retirement, is enriching herself to levels of extreme. I mean, tens of thousands of dollars, losing to a game show host in an election where she had everyone backing her, and participating in genocides in countries like Libya during her disastrous tenure as Secretary of State.